An accident during my graduation trip led to the amputation of my left leg. But at that moment, the school beauty I secretly admired proposed to me. For 30 years after marriage, we treated each other with utmost respect. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that I discovered the 199 love letters I had written were thrown into the scrap heap, while she kept another person's love letters locked in a safe, treasuring them dearly. At that time, my condition worsened, and I lay on the hospital bed, barely clinging to life. She hurried over, and just before I closed my eyes, the last words I heard from her were, "Next time, don't save me." Only then did I understand her true feelings. She would rather die than be with me anymore. When I woke up again, I found myself back before the graduation trip. This time, I decided not to provoke her anymore and to live the rest of my life as strangers. However, fate struck again. She suddenly threw herself in front of me and said, "Let me save you this time." In a haze of consciousness, I only heard the noisy clamor around me. Someone tapped me on the arm. "George, George, it's voting time. We're just waiting on you." I blinked in confusion and looked around. Before me were young faces, both familiar and strange. The 7 of us were once the closest friends in high school. But an accident during our graduation trip took the life of my best friend Tom and left me disabled. Those memories were too painful. No one wanted to talk about them anymore. And gradually, our relationships grew distant. How about a graduation trip to the Grand Canyon National Park? Speak up. Tom, sitting to my left, knocked on my head when I didn't respond for a long time. Seeing my old friend alive and right in front of me, I was both shocked and delighted. It turned out I had really gone back to before the graduation trip, the very starting point of all the tragedy. "What's wrong, George? Is it because you heard that the school beauty Mary is coming with us, and you're so happy you're acting silly? That's just pathetic." Hearing the name Mary again, my heart felt like it had been doused with a bucket of cold water. In my previous life, Mary suddenly said she wanted to join a graduation trip with a few of our friends. In the end, the other girls had things to do and didn't come. Only she showed up. On the first day of the trip, the hotel room we had booked was taken by a tour group. A few of us guys planned to spend the night at an internet cafe, but since there was a girl, we found a guest house instead. Unexpectedly, there was an earthquake that night. The guest house was old and poorly maintained, and it collapsed instantly. I saw Mary almost get hit by a falling stone, so I pushed her away, but then I was struck by a lampstand. When I was rescued, my left leg was already necrotic and had to be amputated. Tom, who stayed behind to save others in the guest house, left us forever. Mary and I attended the same university, and during that time, she took great care of me. At the graduation ceremony, she suddenly proposed to me, and I agreed. After marriage, our life lost some of the sweet passion of young couples and gained more of the ordinary daily routine. I always wanted to add some romance to our life. So, I wrote letter after letter of love to Mary. But before I died, I discovered that the 199 love letters I wrote had all been thrown into the trash. While she kept love letters from someone else locked in a safe, lying on my sick bed, life hanging by a thread, I heard her last words, which made me realize that all these years it was just my one-sided wish. She was only repaying the life-saving favor I had done for her. This debt trapped her, and she wanted to be free. Since I've been reborn, I won't provoke her anymore. But that accident hurt too many people, and this time I am determined to change everyone's fate. A bunch of grown men going out to have fun. Bringing a girl along isn't very convenient, right? In this life, I don't want any more entanglements with Mary and want to directly refuse her participation in the trip. But the other guys who have never been in a relationship reacted strongly. Why not? Mary said she would bring a girl. None of us have dated in high school. If we find someone we like on this graduation trip, wouldn't that solve the big matters for the rest of our lives? When you get to college, there will be plenty of chances to date. The graduation trip after the college entrance exam only happens once in a lifetime. What's more important, brothers or women? In the end, the guys discussed and thought that bringing a girl would reduce the chances of romantic encounters on the road. So, they agreed not to bring Mary. I can only say they haven't experienced the pain of love yet. They are too naive. I smiled but said nothing. I originally thought that with Mary's proud personality, she definitely wouldn't want to have any contact with us after being rejected. But Mary called directly and said, "Let's make a bet. If you lose, let me join the graduation trip." I frowned in this lifetime. I really don't want to have any more dealings with her. Seeing that I didn't answer, she let out a light laugh with a hint of provocation and said, "You're not afraid of losing, are you? You decide what we're betting on, but don't come crying if you lose. You're the one who will." The next day, I was invited to the mall. Mary was already waiting there early, still as beautiful as I remembered, standing gracefully and attracting the attention of many passers-by. I looked at the large poster that read, "Couples Kissing Contest," and fell into deep thought. The contest was simple, to see which couple could kiss the longest. But the problem was, where were the couples? Mary, however, walked in calmly and said, "I've already signed us up. As long as we make it into the top 3, you win." Shouldn't it be the two of us competing? It's just the two of us competing, and it'll decide the content of the competition. Good grief. Playing word games with me is trying to make me give up, isn't she? But compared to living and eating together for a tender trip, participating in this kissing contest that only requires enduring for a few dozen minutes doesn't seem so hard to accept. Besides, Mary and I have been married for over 30 years. We're an old married couple by now and have long been used to each other. We stood face to face, our eyes locked. I've looked at this face for over 30 years. I have to admit, she's beautiful. And now, at 19, in the prime of youth, her features are delicate. Her skin is white as snow, like the morning mist, exuding a hazy beauty. But I've seen through her. She's a cold-hearted woman, just like her name suggests. No matter how beautiful she is, I won't be moved anymore. The contest began, and before I could make a move, Mary seemed eager to win. She grabbed my collar and kissed me. The moment our lips touched, a sweet, cloying taste came over me, and my Adam's apple moved involuntarily. Mary was overly proactive. Her tongue slid into my mouth, gently stirring. I almost wanted to pull away from this sudden passion, but when her hand touched my earlobe, a tingling sensation made me linger a little longer. During a breath break, I clearly saw the playful look in her eyes. It reminded me of things from my past life. Mary was the school's famous top student and campus beauty. Many boys competed to give her love letters. I would also, intentionally or not, shoot three-pointers when she passed by the basketball court, trying to catch her attention. But Mary rejected all the boys and was more interested in those who didn't actively approach her. In this life, perhaps it was my deliberate distance that sparked her desire to conquer. Mary seemed to be getting more and more involved, her hand gripping my clothes more tightly, and I felt a slight pain, which completely calmed my heart. This was just her tactic, trying to make me fall for her again. The next moment, I took the initiative to push her away. Mary looked at me in surprise, her face full of disbelief. I suppose she had never encountered anyone who refused to be intimate with her. "That," I said calmly, "I lost." After just a brief moment, Mary composed herself and gave me a smile. Then I looked forward to our first trip together. I turned around and left, not wanting to spend another second with her. But the cherry-like sweetness of her breath still lingered in my mouth, refusing to dissipate. On the day the graduation trip officially started, unlike last time, Mary brought along another girl, Lisa, from the neighboring class. She was quiet and cute, looking like a delicate little bird. Several boys were competing to help them carry their suitcases, but I stepped aside, not wanting to join the commotion. Unexpectedly, Mary bypassed everyone else and pushed her suitcase over to me. "George, you helped me push the suitcase." The envious and jealous looks from the others almost killed me. Last time, I was definitely one of those scrambling to carry the luggage, but now I just want to keep my distance from her, not even wanting to see her during the trip, let alone help her with her suitcase. I said coldly, "The trip has just started, and you're already asking for help. You're so delicate. Maybe you should go back." Mary said defiantly, "Tom already helped Lisa carry it." I strode over to Tom, grabbed Lisa's suitcase, and pushed Tom. "Did you hear that? She wants you to carry it." Tom looked confused and pointed at himself, asking me. I didn't explain and just walked towards the station with Lisa. In my past life, I never realized that Tom also had a secret crush on Mary. Unfortunately, he never knew that Mary liked him too until the day he died. They missed each other in their past life, and only the love letters in the safe bore witness to the love they never expressed. In this life, why not let them be together? George slowed down. I was walking a bit fast, and Lisa, being short, couldn't keep up and was almost in tears. Only then did I realize and quickly apologize to her, seeing that no one was following behind. Lisa blinked and quietly asked me, "Do you know what kind of girls Tom likes?" Unexpectedly, Lisa had a crush on Tom. Unfortunately, Tom liked Mary, so Lisa's feelings were probably going to be unrequited. I patted her shoulder regretfully. Lisa looked at my expression and knew she had no chance. Her lips puckered, and she burst into tears. I was instantly flustered and about to comfort her, but a hand forcefully pushed me aside. Tom rushed over, full of righteousness. "George, you pulled her over just to bully her. Aren't you ashamed?" But he forgot Mary was still nearby. Showing concern for one woman in front of another is a big taboo. Mary's eyes were full of hurt, but I had no standing and didn't want to comfort her. The high-speed train started ticket checks, and the crowd suddenly grew. I turned to line up, but Mary grabbed the corner of my shirt. I instinctively shook off her hand. Mary was hit by a series of blows, her whole body frozen in place, staring at her empty hands. Her frail figure looked so lonely among the crowd. For a moment, my heart wavered. I was too familiar with her loneliness. In a past life, Mary's gaze at me was always filled with sadness, her brows always furrowed. She never seemed happy when she was with me, especially on Tom's death anniversary. Mary was always more upset than I was. She would prepare a table full of dishes, pour a pot of wine, and drink with me until we were both drunk, half asleep, half awake. I could hear her suppressed sobs. It was as if she was reminiscing about the lover she could never be with through me. What Mary needed was not me at all. I was just a substitute. Why should I be so sentimental? I didn't look back and walked straight into the ticket gate. "Can I sit with you?" Just after sitting down, I looked up, and Mary appeared in front of me again. I thought I made my attitude very clear. So why did she keep coming over? It was really annoying. Turning around, I saw Tom and Lisa sitting together, and I immediately understood. I got up and wanted to switch seats with Tom. Tom looked wary. "What are you doing? Trying to bully Lisa again?" Lisa also showed a pitiful look. I had no choice but to be chased back. Fortunately, others raised their hands, willing to switch seats with me. I chose the farthest one, David, thinking that way I wouldn't have to see Mary. Unexpectedly, after just a few minutes, David came back, insisting on switching back with me no matter what. When did the chance to sit next to the school beauty become something to avoid so much? I was determined and prepared to directly ask a stranger to swap seats. Before I could speak, suddenly a strong hand grabbed my arm and pulled me outside. Mary exuded a low-pressure aura. It seemed she was finally angered. In my previous life, Mary climbed to a senior position in the workplace. She was decisive and strict, never tolerating mistakes, and everyone feared being scolded by her. People said Mary was an exception with me and never lost her temper. But in fact, it was because we weren't close that she never got angry with me. Always polite yet distant. Who wants to be treated like a guest by their own wife? But in this life, I don't even have to be a guest. After the graduation trip, we would go our separate ways. I tried to shake off her hand, but she pushed me straight into the bathroom and then closed the door behind me. The cramped space barely fit the two of us. But at this moment, I had no romantic thoughts. I wanted to leave, but I noticed that Mary, who had been furious just moments ago, had quieted down. I looked down and saw her eyes glisten, stubbornly holding back tears. Mary's voice was filled with grievance, trembling slightly. "George, being reborn is such a big deal. I've been this proactive all my life. So why do you still treat me like this? I'm your wife. What exactly did I do to make you hate me so much? Can't you just tell me directly?" I didn't expect Mary to be reborn as well. In this life, our biggest regret is that graduation trip. In a previous life, there was an accident during the trip, and coupled with my mobility issues, the trip became a shared emotional knot between us. For more than 30 years, the farthest I ever went was to college. After that, I stayed in my hometown and never traveled far again. Mary, because of work, often flew around the world on business trips. Meanwhile, I could only stay at home, repeatedly watching videos posted by travel bloggers. I also once suggested that we take a trip together during a holiday, but she refused, citing the number of people and my physical inconvenience as reasons. Mary said we couldn't afford to face a second accident, but when she was out alone, I was always anxious at home, fearing something might happen to her. All the mistakes began with this graduation trip. In this lifetime, we can't keep tormenting each other. As long as I can prevent the accident, our tragedy won't happen again. But just thinking about watching her fall in love with Tom makes my heart ache. After all, I've loved her for more than 30 years. I can't just let go so easily. I can only pretend not to understand. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not avoiding you. We just aren't that close. But can we get to know each other again? Not interested. Mary wanted to say something else, but at that moment, there was a knock on the door. What are the people inside doing? The air instantly froze. It seemed she just realized where she had taken me. Her face flushed red, and she became flustered. I sighed helplessly and sent a message asking Tom to come and help. When leaving, Mary had already regained her calm demeanor and whispered in my ear, "No rush. It'll wait for the day you become interested." After getting off the high-speed train, we headed toward the hotel. Along the way, the others were chatting and laughing, but I was deep in thought because in a few hours, the time of the accident from my past life would arrive. Mary also became quiet and withdrawn. "What's wrong with you two? You seem strange since getting off the train," Lisa said, looking at us with concern. Tom immediately covered her mouth, glancing at me with a somewhat teasing expression as if he misunderstood something. But I had no mood to explain right now. With the experience from my past life, this time I chose a different hotel. But unexpectedly, the hotel rooms were again taken by a tour group. No matter how angry we were, the hotel staff just kept apologizing and said they would upgrade our room for free next time. We had no choice but to carry our luggage and look for another hotel. It's peak tourist season now, and most hotels are fully booked in advance. Tom held up his phone and suddenly exclaimed with surprise, "There's one more." When I looked, it was actually the same hotel I stayed at in my past life. My heart tightened, and I hurriedly said, "This won't do." David patted my shoulder and said earnestly, "I know this hotel isn't very good, but we're out here having fun, and it definitely can't compare to home. It's so late, and we've been on a high-speed train for so long. Everyone's tired. Let's just make do for one night and look for another place tomorrow." Mary hurriedly said, "How about we go to the internet cafe and stay overnight? I haven't experienced that yet." "You girls going to the internet cafe? It's smoky and chaotic inside. Not very convenient." "Yeah, you can't really rest well at an internet cafe either." Seeing things were about to head in the same direction as last life, I suddenly remembered that near that hotel, there was a luxuriously decorated bath center where you could also stay overnight. At the time, we even said it would have been better if we had booked a hotel in advance on our phones. I quickly suggested not to rush into a decision and to go check out the environment first. After everyone saw the bath center, they all indeed prefer to stay there. In this way, I successfully helped everyone avoid the hotel from my previous life. This was Tom's first time in a place like this. He looked around curiously, and that silly, stunned expression of his filled me with countless emotions. Tom's my best friend. In my past life, countless times in dreams, I regretted taking everyone to that hotel. And even more, I regretted not stopping him from going back to save others. This life, I only hope he can be happy. Tom shifted his gaze away from those novel things and looked at me, asking, "Why are you crying?" I casually wiped my face and smiled, saying it was sweat. Then he nodded and handed me a towel to make tea. At that moment, Mary and Lisa came over. One go to the sauna together. Their faces were already flushed from the steam. I knew they were actually trying to invite Tom, so I tactfully prepared to leave, but Mary grabbed me, her eyes sparkling as she said, "You come along too." For some inexplicable reason, I followed them. Once inside the steam room and the door closed, I realized it was just the two of us. The steam kept rising, and I felt parched. The room was damp and hot, sweat sliding down Mary's face and flowing along her slender neck. Even though she had been my wife for over 30 years, at that moment, I nervously turned my head away. In this life, we were not supposed to have any connection anymore. I stood up to leave only to see her take an envelope out of her pocket, seemingly wanting to show it to me. I guess she must have received a love letter from Tom and came to me for advice. Facing a woman who didn't love me, a woman I had secretly loved for over 30 years without any result, my heart still uncontrollably raced. I knew I shouldn't, but I almost embarrassingly fled the sweat lodge. After leaving the sweat lodge, Tom and Lisa were nowhere to be found. I glanced at the time and quietly left the bathhouse. Fire. Fire. There was no one at the hotel front desk, so I easily got inside and activated the smoke device for the fire drill. In my previous life, besides us, 5 other families lived in the hotel, one of which had an elderly man. Tom died trying to save him. This time, I was the first to knock on the old man's door and let him out. Soon, I brought out the other families as well, but since no flames appeared, everyone realized something was wrong. Where's the fire? There isn't any, only smoke. Young man, are you playing a prank? We're this old, and you call us out in the middle of the night just to mess around, seeing that the time for the earthquake was about to come. They were arguing and about to go back into the house. At that moment, a figure rushed out, shouting loudly. It's impossible for smoke to appear without reason. This is a sign that something big is about to happen. Her tone was very certain, and the others were stunned, their steps hesitating. This person was Mary. This was the first time I saw her so vividly expressive, making everyone believe her. Her expression was especially exaggerated. Mary explained earnestly, "It's true. There's a family in my neighborhood whose water pipe suddenly burst, flooding the entire house. They had to move out, and that very night, a mudslide occurred and swept the house away." As soon as she finished speaking, we suddenly felt a violent jolt. The once stable house developed cracks and began to sway precariously. Then it collapsed. People panicked, screaming as they fled in all directions. A rock came crashing straight down from above. Before I could react, Mary had already lunged at me. When everything finally quieted down, I tried to get up but found myself pinned beneath Mary. Her hands gripped my clothes tightly, her brows furrowed deeply, and her body trembled slightly as if trapped in a terrible nightmare. Even though she was clearly scared herself, she chose to protect me without hesitation. Fortunately, we managed to avoid the rock. I hesitated for a moment, wanting to comfort her. At that moment, Mary snapped back to reality, hurriedly got up, and carefully checked me over. Only after confirming I was unharmed did she finally breathe a sigh of relief. I looked into her eyes, which were full of tears. "That's great. You're okay. This time I saved you. Yeah, it seems like everything is over. We've been entangled for more than 30 years. And maybe in this life, we can finally be at peace with each other." I instinctively pinched my finger and forced a faint smile. "Yeah, so we're even now. You could go pursue your own happiness." There was confusion in Mary's eyes. She opened her mouth, but hadn't had time to speak when Tom and the others rushed over, surrounding us in an instant. "What are you guys doing outside? Earthquake, are you all okay? How'd you get out? Is anyone injured?" Under the concern of our friends, we were escorted back to the bath center. The earthquake was not severe. Only the old hotel was affected because we had stopped everyone outside the building in advance, except for a few people who were lightly injured by falling debris. Everyone else was safe. In this lifetime, our graduation trip finally had a brand new beginning. The next day, we went hiking as planned. Perhaps because a heavy burden in our hearts had been lifted, the forest air smelled especially fresh, and the babbling stream and rustling leaves sounded particularly pleasant. On this day in my past life, all of us were in the hospital. I underwent amputation surgery, and Tom left us forever. Sadness enveloped us, and the graduation trip became an eternal pain in our hearts. Now I have changed that accident. We are leisurely walking in the mountains, and the future is full of infinite possibilities. I can't help but smile, and my steps become lighter. Mary's condition has also improved. She and Lisa follow Tom, walking behind at a relaxed pace. We climbed to the top of the mountain and set up the tent before they came up chatting and laughing. David's eyes were red, and he was pretending to be angry. He said, "Tom is such a scoundrel, hugging and holding on to both sides all by himself. Why isn't it me saying this?" They started making little plans for tonight. "Let's have a summer night chat and tell ghost stories to scare them. Maybe they'll run to our tent for protection." "I think that's a great idea. George, what do you think?" I looked at the three people in the distance, shook my head, and said, "If that's the case, won't the two girls both have to run into Tom's tent?" "Impossible." "Then it's up to you." When night came, sure enough, David and the others suggested having a summer night talk. Lisa looked small, but her eyes were bright and shiny. She wasn't scared at all and was actually a bit excited. Mary, however, seemed a little afraid and instinctively hid behind Lisa. I knew she was actually very scared of ghosts, but she was too embarrassed to admit it for the sake of pride. David and the others had no intention of letting her off. They told several of their best ghost stories in a row. Lisa listened with great interest and kept shouting for more. Mary, however, was quite scared, and in her panic, she grabbed the wrong place, leaving my arm bruised and blue. I had to step in and call a stop. Everyone packed up their things and returned to their tents to rest. Two girls shared one tent, and the remaining boys were free to arrange themselves. Tom and I stayed together. The excitement from the trip hadn't worn off yet, so when we got back to the tent, no one went to sleep. Immediately, we were still playing around. I was lying down comfortably when Tom suddenly said he needed to go to the bathroom, but after more than half an hour, he still hadn't returned. I started to worry something might have happened and was about to go out to check when a figure slipped into the tent. "Tom," I asked tentatively. The other person didn't speak, just slowly moved closer to me, and then a warm body pressed against my arm. From the distinct body curves, I could tell this was definitely not Tom. I was almost scared out of my wits. I could feel this moment. The other person finally spoke. "George, it's me." A familiar voice came. It was Mary. I calmed down a bit. In the darkness, Mary moved closer to me again. "George, I'm very scared. Can you hold me?" Her voice was fragile and trembling. Although I couldn't see her expression, I could imagine her pitiful, pleading eyes. I hesitated for a moment, then gently held her in my arms and softly patted her back. Mary buried her head in my chest, her arms tightly wrapped around me. In the darkness, we held each other quietly, and my heartbeat seemed to gradually synchronize with her breathing. Suddenly, Mary spoke. "Can we talk?" Just that one sentence instantly made me nervous again. Was she going to talk about pursuing a new life and tell me not to bother her anymore? In my past life, Mary cared for me gently and attentively, but there was always a chasm between us. Later, I realized it was because she didn't love me. I couldn't so quickly let go of over 30 years of feelings to immediately embrace a brand new life. "I'll go look for Tom first." After saying that, I still chose to avoid the situation. I hadn't walked far when I heard Tom's voice coming from the tent before Mary's. A sudden feeling of I knew it disappointment surged in my heart. The next second, I heard another girl's voice. It was Lisa. That's when I remembered this tent was where Lisa and Mary stayed, just like Tom and I shared a tent. So it felt like something in my mind shattered and then started to piece itself back together. But before I could think it through, the voices from the tent seemed to take on a somewhat ambiguous tone. I could only hurry away. Back in my own tent, Mary crossed her arms and looked at me with a sly expression. "George, you're really slow when it comes to feelings. Didn't you realize Tom likes Lisa?" My expression stiffened, and I was silent for a moment. Then she said something even more shocking. "That's why you never noticed I liked you back in high school." My mind went completely blank in an instant, almost stopping its function. "What are you saying? You like me? Tom likes Lisa. Doesn't he like you? He even wrote you love letters, and you kept them in a safe. But my love letters, you threw them all into the wastepaper basket." After hearing this, Mary laughed so hard her shoulders shook. "Didn't you notice? Whenever you play basketball, I would always pass by the basketball court. The court is so far from the teaching building. I always took a detour on purpose to go by there. Only then did I remember, indeed, I had many chances to shoot three-pointers to show off in front of her, and my basketball skills improved quite a bit. Mary continued, "The love letter you mentioned was the one Tom asked me to deliver to Lisa during the graduation trip. I never expected the accident to happen afterward. I hesitated about whether to give the letter to Lisa, so I kept it in the safe all along. As for the love letters you wrote to me, I even had the stationery mounted and preserved carefully. What you saw were just the envelopes. The cleaning staff thought they were empty and threw them away as trash. Later, I found out and collected them all. You just didn't see them, having lived nearly 60 years in my past life." Hearing her say this now, I realized I was like a clueless young boy back then. Since we truly loved each other, why was our past life so unhappy? Mary seemed to guess what I was thinking and slowly said, "I know how much you love sports and long for the sunshine. But after that accident, you locked yourself in your room and never touched a basketball again. You don't know how guilty I felt, hating myself for causing your injury. I didn't dare to bring up that day's events again, afraid of touching your wounds. Every year on that day, I would get drunk to the point of oblivion. I wanted to stay by your side to take care of you, but I feared you would resent me for hurting you. I could only be cautious and hope you would let me stay by your side. So those tears were all shed for me. I don't want you to save me anymore. Let me protect you instead. So in this lifetime, let's get to know each other again, okay?" Mary looked at me with eyes full of hope. I swallowed and heard myself say, "Okay." We fell asleep in each other's arms and were awakened early the next day. We stood on the mountaintop, watching the brand new sun slowly climb over the peak, bringing warm light. Everyone's mood was incredibly excited, and their hearts felt especially open until the sun was fully risen. David finally noticed something unusual. "Tom, why are you hugging Lisa?" Wait, George. How come you betrayed us, too?" Mary and I exchanged a smile, our fingers tightly intertwined as we leaned against each other. This was the first sunrise we watched together. In this lifetime, we will watch every sunrise and sunset together, retrace the paths we never took in our past lives, travel all over the world, and make up for all the regrets. And this graduation trip is just the beginning of our happy,